Hello, everybody. Hopefully, everybody watched New York Giants Hard Knocks episode 1, the new Hard Knocks off season. First time they're doing that. They've always done, training camp leading up through the preseason and stuff. They have done in season Hard Knocks twice now, Colts and Cardinals, or have they done it more than twice? I
I
think twice.
think twice. Yeah.
Hasn't been great, notably. Now, off season, I think most people probably will think this is the least interesting version of Hard Knocks. For me, I think for a lot of football nerds, I think this is going to be a good one. And I really like the whole scouting process. Obviously, I mean, if you've watched FlurrySports stuff in the past, I really enjoy the scouting process, the pro scouting process in terms of free agency, self scout stuff like that. We're going to get a lot of that during this New York Giants Hard Knocks. We're going to get a lot of how the front office, general managers, scouts actually speak about players, which I think is going to be enlightening for a lot of people. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really good one. I think it's going to be a unique one. So if you are a football nerd, I really suggest watching it. If you do not have a Max account and you are not able to actually watch Hard Knocks, well, we are going to be giving our live reactions. Literally just ended a couple minutes ago. So we're going to talk through it. If you watched it as well, certainly chime in the chat or comment under the video afterwards or beside the video, I think is what YouTube's doing now. Definitely comment your thoughts, chime in. And if you haven't, then this will be a little bit of a shorter way for you to know what's going on so you can talk about it at work tomorrow. Initial thoughts, Trevor, because I think going in, like I said, most people thought it was going to be probably less exciting. And then add to the fact that it's New York Giants, which most people do not care about, not a team expecting to be great, not a team with a lot of excitement. But what's your overall thoughts, quick hitter takeaways from this first episode?
I loved it personally. I think the problem, and I truly think it's one of the only problems with Hard Knocks training camp, is it kind of feels like the same stories over and over again sometimes, at least when you're watching practice film. But in off season, I mean, it's completely different. To your point, I liked hearing about the scouting. I liked players with their values and the stats in it. Like, it's more of a pure football breakdown that I'm interested in. Like, I love hearing how they talked about Devin Singletary and even though
Yeah.
briefly Tony Pollard, like, that's a peek behind the curtain more than we've ever seen. And I know people are going to complain about it, but that's what I want to hear. I want to hear why they didn't like that guy, why they thought he was better than him. Like, that's why we love football. So I thought this was a great start for me.
Yeah, it's suddenly not journalists talking about football. It's suddenly not fantasy football experts talking about football. Suddenly it's football people talking about football, other than the New York Giants president and CEO, Mara or whatever, really saying basically, fuck offensive line. We need Saquon Barkley back. And I think that's a nice little peek in terms of there's not all football people in football buildings. And a lot of times decision makers aren't football people, which is why you see a lot of terrible football on the field. But let's just start from the top. I think we started with Saquon. I think Saquon was the interweaving thread throughout this entire episode, which makes sense. Obviously, he was the Giants' identity. Contract came up. They have to decide if they're going to franchise tag him or not. We now have all of the information, right? We just don't know what happened on the inside. But I think it's interesting. They're like, okay, I don't think we're able to trade him. We can't really franchise him. That doesn't make sense. Who's going to actually pay him? Who would actually do that? And it's interesting that it's like they brought it up. Someone brought it up at some point. It's like, well, like maybe Philly would, but Philly also has all these defensive needs that they have to fill. Little did they know that Philly's going to draft defensive stars time and time again in the draft, like they always do. But they were able to draft a difference or sign a difference maker at Saquon. But basically everything they predicted kind of happened. Like it was kind of perfect. It shows how in tune with the football world, like across the league, right? Like what other front offices are going to do, like what everybody truly does know what everyone's going to do for the most part, right?
Yeah, and I love the peek behind the curtain. I think it's just another chink in the armor of the people who are like, all GMs know what they're talking about, all presidents know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones just got put out to slaughter, and he's talking about fuck offensive line. And Saquon
Yeah.
Barkley's not important. And then you have the scouts that are like, well, we can do this, we can do this. They know what's going on. They know what other people are thinking. Like, if you're looking for the brains in the room and you're saying, oh, you couldn't be a GM, anybody could be a GM, not anybody could be a scout. That's what I think I'm taking from this, at least from
Yeah.
right now. It's nice seeing the intricacies, how they kind of drop little hints. I like, and I like how they're all just kind of, at the end of the day, they're all just guys being dudes or gals being dudes, just kind of screwing around, but also like doing a
Hmm.
very important job. But I mean, it just points out that scouts run the shit. Like if it was GMs running the shit, the NFL would be a crap show.
Yeah, I kind of forget a lot of times how little people know about scouts, like what scouts actually do. I think you can poll like a normal NFL fan, like the general NFL fan, and I don't think anyone even consider that they're scouts for NFL players. Like they think, oh, scout, they just scout the high school players, they scout college players. It's like there's just as many scouts, sometimes more scouts scouting potential free agents, talking about people who could be on the trade block, everything. People who's going to be a free agent 2 years from now. So like they need those types of players. They know exactly the types of players here. They have connections from when they scouted them when they were in college. They talked about, oh, Joe Mixon's probably going to be a cap casualty. Consider him a free agent. Singletary, we really think he's going to be this number. We can get him. This is how he fits here, here, and here. DeAndre Swift, he could do this type of stuff. So he has a really good skill set, but he has to be a part of a committee. So it doesn't really make sense to bring him in to be a featured guy. Whereas you could talk about fantasy football people, be like, oh, DeAndre Swift, he's a stud. He's one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. Like we heard time and time again when he was in Detroit. Then he gets put on Philly and like, oh, he's clearly the number one guy. That wasn't the case. So it's like there's skill sets. It's building a puzzle. That's what this entire Hard Knocks offseason is going to be, is building a puzzle. And it might be my favorite part of football. I love the actual coaching part as well. Getting on the field. We're not going to get any of that this time. Maybe a little bit of OTAs and stuff. But like in terms of putting the team together, building the puzzle, I think is great. I wish they went into Wink Martindale a little bit more because that story is more interesting than the New York Giants wants to put out, obviously. Like firing his assistant coaches without him knowing, without him signing off on it. That's the story. And Wink's like, you got rid of my guys, fuck you. And then he left. Literally, he just walked out the door. And unfortunately, now he's in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it is interesting. Just about the X's and O's part and putting together a team. Like, don't get me wrong, it's very, very, very extremely dumbed down. But like, that's why
Yeah.
dynasty football is fun too. You're dealing with first round picks. Like, that's where it gets more interesting than regular fantasy. And it's interesting because everybody, especially, and I'll tie it back to the college football game. They're like, oh, look how in depth recruiting is and stuff. And then to your point, they look at scouts and they're like, they don't really do that much. It's like, no, no, no. Like this video
Yeah.
game is maybe 2% of what they do. So it's nice to see them getting some love because I mean, it really is kind of a thankless job. Like nobody knows. There is not one player in NFL history that anybody's ever been. Oh, that scout nailed it on the head. It's
No.
Ted Thompson fucking cooked this draft. Not
Right.
the guys who did the work.
Yeah. Scouts are a thankless job. It is every hour of the day job. They are turning over every fucking rock they can, gaining information every way they can. They're watching every bit of film from, Pop Warner to, last week in the NFL essentially. But they're also talking to other teams. They're talking to other scouts. They're talking to maybe people who aren't employed in the NFL, people like that as well. Like scouts use every resource. They put the puzzle together. And yes, the general manager sort of directs them, but it's mostly like they hire them for the role. And then like, you go do what you got to do. This is what I want you to look for. And then bring me the information. Then we'll talk about it. That's what it is. One thing I didn't like about this, and it was maybe in the first 2 minutes, they showed they're speaking a Parcells quote. They showed the weight room, the Parcells quotes on the wall, and they don't use the word shit in the quote. This isn't middle school. Like you don't think like the word is shit too to Raw for the New York Giants now. You used to have Lawrence Taylor doing cocaine on the sideline. That was like your best form of football. Like you can't use the word shit in paint. It's soft bullshit. I don't like it.
Well, it's dumb because I mean it's whitewashing football for new fans if they're watching this, and for any NFL fan that knows a lick of knowledge about Bill Parcells, they're going, a quote by Bill Parcells without at least three
True.
cuss words. Yeah, okay, sure, yeah, that's what happened. I mean, I don't know who you're protecting there. To your point, it's not like it's it's a slur or anything like that. Like that's if
It's
you think
weird.
shit is a bad word, boy, I got bad news for you in football huddles.
Yeah, no kidding. Or in the front office. I mean, they're dropping F bombs every other sentence because that's just how people talk. Sorry about it. So they showed Shane driving in. He talked about peanut butter and jellies a lot, after my own heart. What did you think about the Uncrustable choice? So he went strawberry.
It's tough for me because I was a loser in high school. I took the crust off the Uncrustables. Um,
Lame.
shout out Luke. Um, Strawberry is good. I think better Uncrustables. You get 12 oat bread. That takes PB&Js to the next level. Let me tell you. 12 grain, 12 oat. But
True.
Uncrustables
I agree. I
not
agree.
not horrible. But I mean, if you're a grown ass man, you gotta have a bigger PB&J than that. Like he's like, oh, when I was a youngin, we'd used to make these. Now I can afford to buy Uncrustables. It's like, all right, dude.
I don't know. I love Uncrustables. There's a time and place for every type of peanut butter, every type of peanut butter and jelly. But Luke is correct. Grape over strawberry for Smuckers. What are we doing? If we're going
Yeah,
homemade,
probably.
we can use the strawberry jam. Homemade strawberry jam's great. But I didn't even know people bought the strawberry kind. I just thought they had to do it for like, you know, Title IX purposes, whatever the version of that for fruit is. I didn't
Here's
know.
here's the one thing though. Uncrustables have to be cold. They have to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lukewarm their shit.
Yeah. I've had it deep fried at a fair, so
I've
technically
heard
that was
those are
warm.
good. We
Oh,
almost
you kidding me?
we almost burned
It was grape too.
our apartment down in college, deep frying them. We did not have many openings for the windows, and I walked out and there was just the haze, like I was hanging out with Snoop Dogg.
Interesting. And Luke says freeze Uncrustables, and that's the pro move. I think we're
Yeah.
finding out a lot of things are frozen on these streams. Better frozen. Talk about Pop Tarts, talk about Uncrustables, but yeah, frozen Uncrustables, 100%. I just wrote notes like while we're watching this, obviously breaking down running back free agents. We talked about it. I thought that was really good. They touched on only a few of them, but I think it's really smart. And in terms of, I think it's big football brain move, and people will disagree with it maybe. But it's like there's value. Like we have so many holes. I thought it was interesting that they said that they got better last year at every position other than quarterback. Essentially, I disagree there, but yeah, if they spent the franchise tag on Saquon Barkley, they would have zero chance this year, zero. Like that's how you sink a team.
Yeah, I felt like they were kind of doing a little ode to Moneyball with like we can recreate Barkley in the aggregate. That was kind of
Yeah,
funny, but
yeah, sure.
I mean they're completely true. Like even though the owner's like fuck the offensive line, like everybody will die. You will have no off. The offense and the defense starts at the line. We know this. Every team that wins
Yeah,
anything has a great line or a great D line. So, to your point, if you spend all that money on Saquon, especially a guy without an offensive line, probably won't be on the field. What? Maybe 5 wins? Maybe.
well, we've seen it. We've seen it for the past 4 or 5 years. We've seen Saquon with no offensive line. Maybe let's change it up. Like, can't. What if we get rid of Saquon? Then we don't have an identity on offense. We got rid of all of our touchdowns. What, 5? It's fine.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
figure it out.
well, and it's like the age-old question. Like, you don't need to be a good running back if you have a fucking line. Like the Badgers,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, Wisconsin Badgers have had some great running backs, and I'm not going to call any out by names that are shit, but like there have been some running backs that have come through and left Wisconsin and became absolute duds. And you want to know why they were good here? It's because they had a big fucking Mack truck of an offensive line pushing the way for them.
Yeah, 100%. But this whole theme, okay, so they talk about if we move on from Saquon, what's the plan? We have a $40 million quarterback. We actually have to see what we have in him, which is interesting. It seems like they've been committed to Daniel Jones the entire offseason, whereas there were certainly questions from, draft analysts and stuff like that. Like, are they going to take a quarterback there? Are they going to try to go for Drake May? Are they going to try to do stuff like that? Sounds like they were committed to Daniel Jones the entire time, which I don't think's the wrong idea or the wrong move, just because of, where their situation is. Like, they actually do have to see what they have in them. But then they said, like you said, okay, we have to address the offensive line just to give them a shot. We have to get him a number one receiver. We have to address the offensive line. So they went and drafted Malik Neighbors. We'll find that out later. Who will fill the number one wide receiver role. He prototypes as that, at least. Will he pan out? Who knows? I don't know if they address the offensive line still. They signed John Runyon, obviously from the Packers, who's a decent guard. I think he's fine, but that's kind of their only move. They didn't get that much better.
Well, it's interesting because I was hearing that part and I was like, okay, well the Giants know a little more than they put on, because you see the moves the Giants make and you're like, what the hell are they doing? And then you hear that, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
they're on the right direction, and then you remember how their draft went after Malik Neighbors, and it's like,
Yeah.
Okay, well, who's calling the shots? Obviously it's the GM, but if is the GM listening to the scouts? Is he like, what's going on here? Because if you don't shore up that offensive line, I don't know where they're going there.
Yeah, that president has a lot of pull in that building, unfortunately. And he's the only one that's been the mainstay there during their losses. But to your point, they went Malik Neighbors at 6, which I thought was funny. Shane kept asking, like, sure you don't want to move up to 6? Does anyone want to move up to 6? Because clearly he didn't want to stay. But Neighbors, they went second round. They went Tyler Nubin, who we like, and they needed a replacement for McKinney, but not offensive line. Then they went cornerback with Andrew Phillips. They went tight end with Theo Johnson. They went running back with Tyrone Tracy, who is expected to play a little bit. And then Darius Moussar or whatever in the 6th round. They didn't even draft an offensive lineman, that's rare for a good offensive line team, not much less a offensive line needy team.
Well, and on top of that too, like, obviously Neighbors was a need, Nubin was a need. Cornerback at 3, don't get me wrong, their secondary is not great, but if I'm not mistaken, they just drafted 2 stud cornerbacks last year. And yeah, they struggled last year, but they were rookies thrown into the fire. I mean, you can't expect too much from there. So I understand what they're trying to do, but I mean, shit, you need an offensive line a lot more than you need a third cornerback, because I guarantee you the first 2 are going to do better this year than last year.
I mean, if you allow a free rusher, by the way, know the division you play in as well. Like, you have Micah Parsons, you have Philly, you have Washington coming at you. If Daniel Jones gets hurt the first game, you're in this exact same spot as right now next year. And you're going to be like, okay, well, we have a $40 million quarterback who we don't know what we have. Like, you have to make sure he's healthy for 17 games. He has to be. And if he's bad, then you draft a replacement because you're picking high. If he's good, then okay, at least we know that now, and now we can build around him. Like, there has to be answers this year. That's the Giants' goal. It's not Super Bowl. It's just to figure out if we have a franchise player on offense or if we don't.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to really give him 17 games. You got to at least give him like 7 or 8. I mean, truly, you got to give him something. And if, to your point, if he goes down week 4, are you going to go off of don't get me wrong, good playoff run and beating Minnesota, a year off and then 3 games, and then you better pray you hit on quarterback next year, and then even if you do, you better draft offensive line, and then the offensive line better hit. Like, there's so many ways this can go bad.
Yeah, there's still a lot of time, but at the current moment, I don't know if they're giving Daniel Jones a chance to succeed still. I mean, they got him a receiver, that's great. But theoretically, he lost his number 1 receiver, if you want to consider Darren Waller that, which we'll see, I guess, in a few episodes probably. And the offensive line, you still have Evan Neal at right tackle. We'll see if he pans out. I still think he's a talented guy, but he is clearly, there's some disconnect, whether it be between his hands and his brain or if he just doesn't want to play football. I don't know. I know he doesn't want to play guard, and that's why they signed Runyon instead of moving him to guard. but something's up there. They got a good center, and they got Andrew Thomas at left tackle. He's good. So they got 2 out of 5 offensive linemen who I think are studs, and Runyon I think is serviceable. So we'll see what happens there. They showed bringing in, obviously, Wink out. They brought in Shane Bowen at DC, who I like. I think he's really good. I liked seeing him kind of pitch his defense to the scouts and stuff like that to go get his type of players. I still have sort of a old school mindset that I don't necessarily love, bringing in a coordinator and them saying, this is the only way we can play. This is the way we have to play. I cannot adapt to the personnel because I am not good enough. That's how I read the room. But I do think he's a smart guy. And there's one line in this whole thing. It still blows my fucking mind. They talked about Shane Bowen, how he's really good because he's learned so much from Vrabel. Vrabel still doesn't have a job. I know he's like interning with the Cleveland Browns, essentially. Like, we're talking about the two of the most respected head coaches in the NFL, from Belichick to Vrabel. You can throw in Pete Carroll. He was a top 5 most respected head coach. Like, it's insane that these guys don't have jobs because of the non-football people who are making decisions. It's ridiculous.
Well, to that point, it doesn't matter how many years it was, 2 or 3 years ago. Look back at that team he got to a 1 seed. I mean,
Insane.
Say what you want about luck, but there is no fucking way. You could simulate the season 100 times. That team is not the 1 seed once. And they were pretty close to making some runs. I mean, if I remember correctly, they lost on a game-winning field goal to McPherson, 50-plus yards. Oh, the year they went to the Super Bowl and almost won. Like, that team was really good. Everybody talks about how great of a coach he is. He doesn't have a job. It does not make any sense at any level.
No. And we're going to see, again, 1 and 2, for sure 2 years from now, probably next year as well. We'll see another quarter or third of the league head coaches getting fired again because, they didn't pan out. That's weird. Like, let's at least employ the people who we know are good. Let's just start there.
Well, and to that point, I mean, not only is he clearly a leader of men, which sadly is no longer a requirement, he's played in the fucking league. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Matt LaFleur in terms of, what he is. Obviously, he's no, great player, but even if you think he's a great mind, he never played. A lot of these guys have never played. That unlocks a huge part in at least, talking with the guys and being on the same page and understand what they're going through.
Yeah. I don't know anyone who said something negative about Mike Vrabel. I don't really understand that one. I can understand Belichick not having a job more than Vrabel not having a job. That one blew my mind. I don't get it. But his coaches are getting hired everywhere because they're connected to him. And I think he's a good replacement for Wink. Bowen is in New York. I think he's a good defensive coordinator. I think he'll be fine. But I mean, he's not Wink. Like, it's a downgrade. It is what it is. I wish we could get Wink on Hard Knocks. It would have been incredible, but whatever. Yeah.
You know what he should do? He should do what Robert F. Kennedy did, where he did his own, debate. He should just get on a camera and pause whenever he wants and shoot shit down.
I would watch that multiple times over. Just listening to Wink speak it's a treasure. It's unbelievable. One of the most unique minds we have across all fields right now. And it pains me that he's at Michigan. That's not fair. I can't believe we let that happen. Last thing I wrote down in terms of what happened, and again, it was one of the final things that was said. This is the year for Daniel Jones. If you're a fantasy football person, I think that's telling. I think this is a team that really wants to go as Daniel Jones goes. So I think he'll be given the reins a little bit more. Another year in Dayball's system, a number 1 receiver in Neighbors, theoretically. And still a good running attack with Devin Singletary, I think, and Tyrone Tracy is going to be mixing in on third downs. But it's a make or break year for Daniel Jones. It's a make or break year for this Giants team. Now, if this is as incompetent of an organization as it has been over the past half decade plus, I suppose, this is what's going to happen. Like, Daniel Jones is going to fail because the offensive line is not good, and he's going to get the shit kicked out of him. And then Dayball's going to get fired. The GM's going to get fired. And neither of them, it was neither of their decisions to extend Daniel Jones, right? like it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where this whole thing started that Daniel Jones sucks. I mean, we heard it. Again, led him to a playoff victory on the road against the Vikings. Were the Vikings overrated that season? Absolutely. He played really damn well in that game.
Yeah.
And he has 1 year where he tears the fuck out of his leg. He has no offensive line. He has no weapons outside of Darren Waller. And Barkley is, he can't do much even when he's on the field because of that line. And suddenly we're acting like he's, Zach Wilson. I don't get it. And it's unfortunate because I feel like for a different reason, he's turning into a Tyrod Taylor in terms of he's more than serviceable, but you're not giving him a damn team. Like, when you give him a team, he's great. You got to give him a team. I don't know why we don't do that, why we don't look at that.
Yeah, anyone who says they know what Daniel Jones is a liar, or they just don't know football. Like, he just hasn't gotten a shot. He hasn't had a fair shake. I think he's done some good things. I think he's talented. Do I think he is a Super Bowl winning quarterback? I have no idea. Probably not. I don't think he's going to be the reason they win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Could they win with him? Probably. I don't know. But
the team won with Trent Dilfer, so
yeah. Shit. I mean, it depends on percentage of the cap, I suppose. If he's 20% of the Giants cap, that's tough. And that's probably around where he is right now. But I mean, truthfully, who knows? Is if he can get a pocket to throw from and he has a wide receiver who can get open, let's see him do that. Because is he worse than what Eli Manning was? Was he worse than what most of their division is? Like, I don't know. I don't think so, but we'll see. The other thing I did write down, I guess, they talked about Brian Burns a few times. And it's one of the things I'm excited to see them pull off. But they talked about what would you actually give up for Brian Burns? And they talked amongst the scouts and stuff. And they were saying, well, they already turned down 2 firsts. So it's going to be, 2 firsts plus something else. They go to the East-West game, I think of what it was. Panthers' new head coach is like, do you want to give us 2 firsts for Brian Burns? Or at least a first and something else nice? And then just looking back at that, how did the Giants get Brian Burns for a 2nd-round pick? Like, it seemed like the starting price was 2 first rounds since they already turned that down. Why did they turn that down? Like, I don't understand this.
Well, it's just, I mean, again, I would say the majority of GMs across all sports are probably incompetent. Maybe incompetent's a strong word, but your average person off the street at best. I mean, to your point, you can't tell me you can't put out calls to every team and at least get a first. I know somebody's going to give you a first for him. And then to see all them butthurt about, well, I know this, and, the Carolina owner has been whoever the hell he's been with the tirades, like, it's just sad to see that, people are still supporting GMs after those moves, because there's no way.
Yeah, I assume Tepper is really involved with making those decisions because it seems like everything he touches goes to shit in terms of sports. I mean, I know he's involved with, at least with some of the decisions, but I mean, you look at the Christian McCaffrey trade, that sucked. That one you can understand a little bit more, but still, like, that wasn't great. This Brian Burns one, it made no sense at the time. He hasn't set foot on the field for the Giants yet, so maybe it'll get figured out and the Panthers will look like geniuses. But as of right now, this Giants defense, in terms of their front 7, it's good. Like, plain and simple, it's a good front 7. We'll see what their secondary does, and then we'll see if their offense can do anything. Again, they talked about in the episode, lowest scoring Giants offense since 30, 40 years. And again, I asked the director of player personnel, how do you replace those touchdowns? Pretty easily. I think you could find somebody to give you 5 touchdowns, whatever Saquon got. It's going to be okay. But yeah, this Giants team, they're sneaky. They really are. And I know Hard Knocks kind of does a good job at doing this for a lot of teams, but seriously, given their division, given everything, they are kind of sneaky if they get any sort of good quarterback play.
Absolutely. Because I mean, again, they're 1 year removed from the playoffs. A lot of moves, but their
Mm-hmm.
front seven is good. We've done that on the ranking show. If you haven't looked at that, look at the NFC East ranking show by positions. But they have that. Again, the corners, I think they'll be much better, especially now that they have a much better front seven. That always helps. Their
Yeah.
safeties are just fine. So defensively, they're there. What happens if Dallas, I mean, CeeDee Lamb, who the hell knows if the rumors are true that he wants to be traded if they can't give him whatever? I mean, is Dallas ahead of the Giants defensively? Yes. Offensively, now we have question marks. So, and with 3 wild cards, I mean, shit, anybody can make it
Yeah.
in. So
Especially
they'll
the
be.
NFC.
I mean, it's very easy for them to at least go 7-9 or 8-8. But if Daniel Jones is not his feet, then you're going to win 4 games.
Who did they sign as a backup again? They signed somebody. Oh, Drew Lock. Drew Lock is there. That's interesting to see too. I think they're going to give Drew Lock a chance to compete, but before Hard Knocks, I thought it was a truly 50-50 job. I thought it was going to be Drew Lock's. He was going to give him a chance to win that job. After watching that, it certainly sounds like Daniel Jones has to lose the job. Right?
And I think it's the right call too. I mean, Daniel Jones knows the system. He's proven not a ton, but he's proven at least a little. Drew Lock has not proven anything. He's still, I mean, he will learn the system by the time the season starts, but I mean, there are a lot more question marks than him. So, yeah, I think Daniel Jones is definitely the guy.
Yeah, I think so too. Anything else specifically from the episode you want to talk about?
No. Do we want to talk about things we're looking for in next episode?
Yeah, for sure. I have a list of things I wrote down, but what are you looking forward to?
I don't know when it's gonna be because I struggle with like when the timeline takes place for all this stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
want to see how and I don't. I think it'll be somewhat protected. I want to see how the front office was thinking about the Darren Waller situation,
Yeah,
because everybody's in the dark. I want to know if the front office was just as in the dark, or if they were planning for a while. Because this is wild, and if anybody would have known, it would have been them.
yeah.
And I don't know why the NFL, I guess thinking about it, why they wouldn't post it. I mean, Darren Waller's retired. I don't think there's anything that you can't post about that. So
I think they were kept in the dark, but we will see. I'm really interested in seeing that. But yeah, I think they were kept in the dark, and I think they made a decision on Theo Johnson in the draft based on that. Like, we don't need to go get a top guy, but we need to have some sort of insurance option here. It can't just be Daniel Bellinger. So I think that'll span a couple episodes. Like, we tried reaching out to Darren. He said his decision's going to come Monday. This didn't happen. I hope they watch the music video though. That's what I want to see.
I want the president calling Kelsey Plum like during a practice and asking about him.
Yeah, that would be great. That's something I'm definitely looking forward to. Obviously, there's going to be draft stuff, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited to see them actually pull off the Burns trade, and I'm excited to see their reaction because it's going to be similar to like when the Detroit Lions drafted Penei Sewell. They're like, Jesus Christ, can't believe he dropped. We got our guy. Like, it's done, sealed, delivered, Hall of Famer. Like, it's going to be similar to that if they're talking about, I don't know if we should give up 2 first, but maybe we can. We'd give up 2 first if we can make the contract work. Oh, you want a second? Okay, sure. Is he on the plate already?
Well, and to your point, it's going to be really interesting to see how Carolina comes out of this because they're going to look stupid either way. But if Tepper throws another fucking hissy fit, I mean, he's already not in good graces. I mean, again, this is a hop, skip, and a jump. Could Tepper be removed from the team? With the way he's starting to go, I would not be shocked.
It'll be Hard Knocks has a chance to completely turn the Panthers fan base against the brand new coach, though, because they already connected the dots. Oh, he talks to the Giants general manager every day. They're best friends. They talk every single day, he said. And maybe it's his idea. Maybe he said, okay, a second round pick. Oh, he's calling the shots. It was his decision. He's such good friends. He got worked by the Giants general manager because he's too good of friends. He's a pushover. Like, that kind of stuff could happen. And that's great because the Panthers are kind of doomed to suck as well. Thank God we don't have their Hard Knocks, I guess. I'm excited to see more Dayball. I love Dayball. So as much as him as possible. I don't know anything. I mean, Saquon started to talk some shit on the Giants, didn't he? When he left the building. So that'll be interesting to see if they're like, okay, fuck this dude. That'd be a fun. They should. If they know the cameras are on them, they know he went to their division rival. They should slaughter him in this. That's what I would do. Like, get ahead of it.
I mean, not only get ahead of it, but, and I know they're not thinking of this, but if you want to expand your fan base real quick, you become as likable as possible. And nobody would be more likable than a team shitting on a guy who went to their rivals in 0.2 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think that would be good. They really didn't do much else this offseason, I guess. Yeah.
Are they going to have Daniel Bellinger take us to an art museum?
Jesus Christ. If they are they going to, I mean, the worst part about Hard Knocks is the player showcases or whatever. And with it not being football season, they have a chance for it to be as ridiculous as possible. So it could be the worst thing. It could be very fun, though. It could. I don't know.
I'm still chasing the high of Aiden Hutchinson singing Billie Jean and everybody going nuts.
Jeez. I mean, get Dexter Lawrence on the mic every single episode. That'll be fine. You just need to mic up defensive linemen. I think they're figuring that out now. Like, yes, this is the most electric room in every football building. Defensive linemen are the life of the party. They have very few brain cells because they ran their head into offensive linemen every play, but they're here for a good time. They always are. So just mic them up. It's going to be great. Anything else? If there's people who watch this after the fact, let us know how you thought about this first episode of Hard Knocks, which you're looking forward to. If you were baited into watching this because you thought it was a full episode stream and you stuck around, thank you for that. Like and subscribe. We have daily trivia videos every single day on the FlurrySports YouTube channel. Test your sports knowledge out. Trevor, anything?
And if you're a college football fan or a video game fan, coming when it is released, me, Zach, Luke, we're going to either have all of us pick a different position in a team, which will be an absolute cluster, which will be cinema, or we're going to pick 3 completely obscure teams and try to duke it out in the playoffs, and that will also be cinema. So either way.
2 weeks from today, right?
Yep, 16th.
Okay, 2 weeks from today, we will be doing that. Let us know if there's any specific college football 25 content you want to see. If there's something other people do, like series that they usually do on Madden that you really enjoy, let us know. We can do that. Or something that you think would be awesome. Let us know that as well. Because it's brand new to us, right? Brand new to everybody, the specific game.
We're doing Dynasty, and we're also going to do, if it works, and if we have time, and if there's, if people want it, Ultimate Team, No Money Squad.
Yeah, we should probably do that. That'll be interesting to do. But we should do that. Let us know. Stick around. Subscribe. We'll be back next week, same time for Hard Knocks. We'll be back tomorrow. We got a video dropping of us ranking the best Culver's menu items, so definitely look forward to that. And, of course, daily trivia videos every single day, Monday through Friday. Take the weekends off to catch